Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. What would you think are the two most common words that Christians use when they're in a panic or in a crisis? Do something. Do something, Lord. It's absolutely against human nature to stand still and do nothing when there's a crisis and there's trouble and difficulty on all hands. And probably the most difficult thing for even Christians is to stand still and wait for God to act. To stand still to see the salvation of the Lord. Even the most devoted of Christians panic when God doesn't move according to their time schedule. We're always giving God dates. We're always giving him a time limit. Lord, if you don't do it by now or by tomorrow or by next week, it's too late. God is never too late, and he's going to do it not on your schedule, not on mine. He's going to do it on his own schedule. But God is always and has always been searching the earth for those who will trust him in their crisis, in every trial, and especially when it seems hopeless. And he will lead us, listen closely, he will lead us into situations that are alarming, that are critical, that seem hopeless, to test us. The devil has nothing to do with it at all. It's God leading into the crisis. The Bible states fairly clearly, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, Psalms 37:23. And that in Hebrew is prearranged, step by step, fixed, ordained by God. I'm going to tell you something. I believe that every step that I take is prearranged by my Father. Every step that I take is ordered by the Lord. Now, if I believe that, if I'm in a crisis, if I'm in a very, very difficult situation, he's led me there. Because he doesn't stop for a moment while he says, well, you're about to go into a trial. I direct you up to this point. You're on your own now. He directs me into it, through it, and out of it. The steps of a good man, and we are good only by the blood of Jesus anyhow. There's no goodness in us. A good man made righteous through the blood of Jesus Christ is her steps ordered by the Lord. God's word is filled with examples of this. And by the way, it's hard to accept. Think about it for a minute. It's very, very hard to accept this concept that the most difficult, critical times in your life have been prearranged by the Lord. That they are his doing. And folks, when you begin to see that and accept it and understand it, then you're halfway through your problem.
All right, welcome to Proverbs Guys Ministries. I guess I need to change my avatar because I don't want to mislead you. It is not Stephen and Krista today. It is just Stephen, although Krista is around and she's able to join if she should. So I want to, how's everybody doing? I see we have a little bit of a crowd building up already. Good to see Missing Mod in the house, and Gigi, and Rich, and Big Bad Mama. Welcome. So I am in need of some some atheists, as it were. And I'll tell you why. I got a phone call this morning, or a text message from my friend, who shall remain anonymous because he's in the chat. Shout out to Rich. And he told me that he was a little bit disappointed because he was looking forward to that 3-on-3 debate. Hey, what's up, Joe? Come join us, man. he was looking forward to the 3-on-3 debate that he was going to step in for me because my schedule got changed last minute. And now he's got a little bit of that debate in his blood, but he doesn't want to. He had in his mind, like, he was already accepting of the fact that it would be multiple people, so he would kind of have a little bit of support for his first ever debate. So I'm trying to arrange a 2-on-2 for him. I got Dr. Kent Hovind to agree to be his second, but I need two atheists who are willing to come debate evolution and cosmology or the universe. And so I know a lot of atheists out there don't like debating Kent Hovind anymore because, according to our side, you guys are running scared. According to your side, he's irrelevant in pseudoscience to the worst degrees. We get the arguments, but for whatever reason, it's very hard to find an evolutionist who's willing to debate Kent Hovind. Hey, how's it going, Rich?
What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm actually soliciting for the debate right now.
I think I heard that, so I had to jump in.
Yeah, I also have Robin working on it. Robin from the atheist side, but
Yeah.
so far Kentucky Atheist is not interested. He's not really a big fan of Doc. I could get a one-on-one debate set up in a couple of days, but finding a two-on-two debate is, I'm going to need a little bit of help from my atheist friends.
Yeah, I mean, you give me some time, little by little. So I guess here's the real reason why I'd rather get started, with having other people on my side helping me out. I mean, I've read like maybe 5 or 6 books in my life, and I got a terrible memory. I'm not trying to discredit anything, but basically all these atheists bring a lot of knowledge and a lot of book smarts to the table. And so it takes me time, instead of being witty and snappy and bringing the stuff directly to the table immediately, it takes me time to step back, analyze it, and independently think over the topic instead of shouting out stuff that has been written in books that dozens upon even hundreds of people have already written down and put in book. I got to step back and analyze it and think of it myself. So I'm kind of so it takes me a little while. So instead of sitting there for 20 minutes while I'm pondering on the thing, it helps if I have somebody else just keep talking about it when I'm thinking about the thing. So uh, I guess that's really why, to kind of get my feet wet, to have somebody else sitting there, ready to go. And
Dude, I don't blame you at all. Just getting in the mode where you want to start taking on apologetics and doing some debates is awesome. And I understand you have never done a debate before. So you want to try to kind of get your feet wet. And since you are friends with Kent Hovind and familiar with him, you guys already have good rapport. And I think you'd be a good duo if we can find an atheist duo to go against you.
yeah, I mean, that would be fun. I'd be honored, to sit next to Dr. Hovind on a debate. I've done a couple debates, via text message and stuff like that, on Facebook and other platforms. So basically, when a topic comes up and somebody says something, I have, time, sometimes even, 36 to 48 hours to think about a good rebuttal or a good response to be able to articulate it. Um, yeah, I wish I was, as quick as Doc and just Johnny on the spot, with every response, but sometimes it takes me some time. So that's why I haven't, officially done an online
Now,
live.
Kentucky Atheist had a pretty good suggestion. He says maybe instead of going straight to a structured debate, you just having like a one-on-one conversation, like with a set topic first, and that kind of gets you in the mode of the debating.
That's not a bad idea. Um, might be up for doing something like that.
And I told Robin I'd be happy to co-moderate with her. That way you have someone fair and subjective on your side and they would have someone, fair on their side, and that way, and Robin and I get along capitally. So I think it would be the makings for a good conversation. But you're
Yeah.
specifically looking for like the universe, right? Cosmology?
Yeah, so I guess a lot of the research that I've been doing over the last decade has been, Big Bang and stuff like that. And my introductory seminar series basically is titled Why Physics Won't Allow the Universe to Create Itself. And, going down that topic, I'm very good with, drifting off of that into, a lot of biology for evolution. I haven't really studied on that topic very well. So, that's why I guess also like why that 3-on-3 debate I think would have been absolutely fun and amazing because you got, a bunch of different guys to interact and converse and, go down all those trails, but, when it comes to debating evolution, the physics behind, why life can't create itself, and I know a lot of atheists completely don't want to admit this, but the entire theory of evolution is based on the assumption that life can create itself. And since there's never been concrete proof that yes, life can create itself, abiogenesis can happen, the prebiotic soup can happen, they completely avoid it and say, oh, evolution or that abiogenesis isn't part of evolution because they know that it hasn't been proven to happen. Um, so I guess those are some of the topics. I mean, even in the scientific definition of the prebiotic soup, they say, oh, a group of complex chemicals got together and then life happened. Well, what is that complex chemicals? Oh, we don't know. We call it so complex because we have no clue what it is. Well, that tells you right there they don't know what it is and know how it happened. But when it comes to like the actual evolution of biology, starting from that single-celled organism forward, you know, those kind of things I haven't really done deep dives on personally. So,
Well, welcome to the conversation, Yassam.
hey,
Hello.
what's going on? Did you get your water on?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
hear you.
I don't know why mute's not working for me either. Yeah, well everything's good. No, I gave them what I had and it kept it on for a while,
Oh,
but
that's right. You got to shut off in the first place. That's right.
yeah, I'm working on it still though. They're working with me, so thank God for that.
Yeah,
Praise God.
we'll finish getting chipped away at it. So,
Yeah.
Worst case, I actually got to do a disclaimer, because this I don't want any atheists to take this seriously. This is a joke. Worst case, if they do shut it off, just go dig a trench and tap into your neighbor's water line, and then throw that through your window.
oh my Lanta, big disclaimer. My
Oh,
Lanta. Kentucky Atheist is going to be joining us in 5 minutes to
all
have a
right.
casual conversation about cosmology. So,
Oh,
wow, awesome,
well,
awesome episode.
I
Um,
guess I need to go over here and start OBS Studios, don't I?
well, I mean, if that's where you're doing your presentation from, but I don't think it's not anything like a formal debate. So
No,
if you
just,
want to just
just
pull up your notes for you,
well, no, I was just thinking, just record the conversation so I can go back and look at, how everything went. But yeah, I'm all for just a casual conversation.
so I don't claim to be super well versed on the makings of the universe and how it functions, so I'm glad you're here for that. But I will say I'm able to hold my own in a conversation just by asking questions that have no answers. For instance, the Big Bang. You're telling me that the entire existence of everything, life on Earth as we know it, everything within the universe was sitting in a period smaller than a dot, and then it's smoking cigarettes and watching reruns of Forrest Gump, and then poof, rapid expansion for no reason. No combustion, nothing. Why? My questions never get answered.
Well, that is the theory. I'm trying to figure out why my kind of
Guys,
distracted.
I'm
I
sorry.
didn't choose
I'm gonna
that
leave.
picture for my avatar, so I got to figure out why that.
I'm gonna leave and come back because I can't do the avatar. It won't let me mute, and with kids, I have to have my mute button. So I'll be back.
If
I
you're
feel like
joining from a cell
screaming
phone, you
children.
need to join
No,
from the laptop.
No, I'm on the laptop. That's why I'm confused.
Okay. All right, and we have the Kentucky Atheist in the house. What's up, Joe?
What's up, guys?
How you doing, Joe?
If you want,
Doing
I'll
all right.
give you a minute to change your avatar.
Yeah, 1 second.
Hey, thanks for joining on a short notice. This is going to help Rich out.
Yeah. No, I think that this is an interesting conversation, and I had a debate with Kent where we talked about some cosmology stuff. Didn't really get far into it, but a little bit.
Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, sorry that didn't work out, man. I was kind of looking forward to that. Bummed out having some technical issues that night.
Yeah, yeah.
It would have been fun.
I just don't
Well,
think that day was supposed to happen, really.
yeah.
Amen,
It
bro.
just kept falling apart.
But truthfully, Joe, you were probably right from the beginning that the 3-on-3 was going to be very chaotic.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough to. No matter how you go about it, it's tough whenever you've got people who all want to talk about a particular topic or whatever. And even if you try to split it up like that, I mean, it's just tough to let everybody get it in without taking 5, 6 hours to do it.
Yeah, and I've done 3-person debates. It was pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, and it went successfully. But having 3 more people in the debate, that could have been crazy.
Yeah, I think it can be done, and I think the group of people we had to do it were capable of doing it. We just had a lot of problems from the beginning, and after 30 minutes of messing with it, I was just like, I'm done. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I like to be, straight to the point. I usually don't like to beat around the bush a whole lot, for lack of a better term. Just kind of bring up a few points and go straight to it. Um, Definitely would make things on my side a little bit simpler instead of shouting back and forth, and things like that. But
So let me ask you, Rich.
yes,
So you want to have a conversation about cosmology now? Uh,
yeah,
I,
Big
I
Bang origin of
imagine
the universe.
is your the place you're coming from with this? Is it that you don't think science gives an explanation, or that you think
Well,
religion
okay, so
does, or
I
both?
think they've tried to explain the origin of the universe, but from the research and studies that I've done, I think physics won't allow the universe to create itself, and that it actually shows that something standing outside of the universe had to put it into existence and into motion, and it can't possibly happen by itself. For example, one of the points that I make on my introductory seminar is that because the universe is in motion, says that something had to put it into motion. Um, so Isaac Newton's third law of motion, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. That alone, I think it says it. So everything in the universe, from the largest galaxy down to the smallest molecule, is in motion. Even a table or a concrete sidewalk, if you zoom in and look at it, at the molecular level, you will see that those molecules are moving. So if every action equals has an equal and opposite reaction, if you follow that backwards, you will see that that motion had to be initiated. An action can't act upon itself. So for something to move, something had to be that initial force.
So would it be fair to say that you're making a cosmology argument blended with a bit of a contingency argument? Is that where, like, these things couldn't happen unless they were the result of other events happening before them, all the way back to an uncaused causer. Is that kind of what you're going at?
Um, I wouldn't really say an uncaused causer. Um, from that being said, let's put the analogy of like, what is the potter? So, like a potter made, two clay pots, right? And when the clay pots came out of the kiln and were set on the shelf, from that point of view, the existence of the clay pots started. Now, they can see everything on their shelf, but the two clay pots communicating to each other haven't really known anything outside of that moment. And for all they can see from that point of view, that the potter has always existed. And their life, their little universe of that shelf has always been. But we know that the potter, had to take the clay, make the pots and put them in the kiln and all that stuff to let their little universe exist. And that's, I guess, a simple analogy of the existence of our universe. That is what I guess I'm trying to say is that there is the need for an intelligent being far superior than our capability of intelligence to initiate this universe into motion. Um, you know, like the Bible says, we are created in their image and we are naturally creative beings. So the stuff that we put together, we see it simple, but I think a lot of times it goes beyond our pride and our ego to think that there might be something far superior than we are on this little speck of dust in this universe.
Okay. So before you get too far, though, one thing I'm going to point out about your analogy is that
Please.
the potter making the clay pots is making those pots out of existing material.
Yeah.
Those pots aren't, the material those pots are made out of isn't created.
Yeah.
It's
From a
utilized.
potter's point of view, yes, yes.
Um, and the second thing you mentioned at the beginning, you said that put into motion by a being outside of our universe or
Yes,
outside
sir.
of space and time. That's problematic in that there's not really a meaning when you say outside of space and time. It doesn't really mean anything. But I get where you're going with it, and I'm
All
not
kind of
gonna.
separate from the existence. I mean, I don't know how else you could really
Well,
put it, but you know what I'm.
here's the thing that you have there is you want to have a supernatural, and
Yeah.
for the just for the purposes of the argument, I'll say okay, whatever. But the that supernatural being is then interfering or interacting with what we call the natural world. Now, in whenever those things happen, whenever there's an interaction of things in the natural world, generally we can find evidence of that or see some reason to suggest that there's some interaction taking place. Uh, with
No,
this, well, I'm gonna concede a bit to you too here. So
well,
give
no,
me just one
I
second.
want to. I need to take notes because I don't want to be rude and cut you off, but I also want
Yeah,
to, let you finish your statement. And that's why, in the past, actually going through and doing like, digital like written text debates is easier because I can break down each
yeah.
analogy. So I've got a terrible short term memory, you
You,
know.
I'll give you a key to YouTube debates. No matter what I say, shouldn't change what you're going to say. Um, Now, obviously, there's rebuttals and things like that that are
Yeah,
dependent
yeah.
on the
That's
things
that's
that I
that's the
say. I
point.
get it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I just whenever we start suggesting these other things, um, I get that your your faith gives you reason to rationalize the things that are said in the Bible. I get that.
Mhm.
And you know, I understand what that means. But whenever we start looking at, like, is there any actual reason to suggest that those things are affecting the natural world? I don't know that we get there. Which is why I asked at the beginning, is this an argument against science or for religion or both or what? Because obviously we both know there's no physical evidence that you can provide that any of this is true, and there's no real physical evidence that I can throw out there to you, other than, you know, like observation of what the universe is now as to its past. But and if we put both of those things on even playing ground, and we'll say, well, your answer is just as likely as my answer absent any other information, um, then it gets to, well, why suggest this answer over the other? And that's where I struggle with this, is because I don't see any reason to make that hypothesis.
Well, so no physical evidence. I guess that has been a goal of mine for many years. Like, how do you define what a spiritual force is? I
Sure.
mean, the Bible in the book of John says that God is spirit. Well, how do you physically define spirit? How do you physically define something that isn't actually physical?
Well, you're presupposing that there is such a thing, first of all.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
know, and I can turn that right back around to you, and say you're presupposing that the universe or life created itself also in the theory of evolution.
I don't think that. I don't think that anything created itself.
How so? How do you mean? Because there's really only two choices: either the universe created itself or something created the universe.
No, that's a false dichotomy, is what that is. So
Please.
the thing that seems to be moving forward in physics today is that the universe has always existed in some form. Um,
I,
there seems to, and this follows with the laws of thermodynamics.
um, Verse. Well, I was going to write that note down, but I disagree on that point. Just that the universe, the fact that it is in motion, means that it can't have always existed forever because something had to initiate it into motion in the first place.
A cyclical universe disregards that.
What do you mean?
So a cyclical universe is the explanation of the expansion and heat death, and then the big crush, and then the re-expansion and heat death and big crush again, to where the universe keeps collapsing in on itself and then reforming,
Right,
because
but
of.
you keep following it backwards. You'll have to see, like, there's a first moment that caused that motion because an action cannot act upon itself.
Well, the laws of thermodynamics suggest otherwise. So um, we have, energy is neither created or destroyed. Correct?
Uh-huh.
It only changes forms. So with that, the energy to do all that within the universe is already there. There's no creating it or acting upon it. The universe itself is a multitude of moving parts that you could in no way predict the outcome, of any individual part. But that's where the laws of thermodynamics, such as entropy and things like that, we understand how that works. And there's been some new theories in this field too, as to that it may be a combination of dark energy and black holes driving, the universe to do these things. So because black holes, for example, are an extremely massive, powerful thing that we have observed.
Very, very strong gravity wells, all they are.
That's not all they are. Um, the We also know that the things that are taken into black holes, are not destroyed; they're released later. Hawking radiation is the theory that covers this, but the that act of black holes converting, matter into energy and pumping it back into the universe, there's been studies that suggest that. I'm not saying that those are correct or 100% right. I'm just saying that there are explanations that that do not require supernatural hypotheses in order to get there.
Essentially, if you're assuming that it's in existence on its own or that it's always been. I mean, I'm not trying to discredit anything you're saying or anything that the physicists are saying. I just want to kind of bring up this point. It seems like kind of a cop out statement when you can't answer, okay, this is how it originated. So we're going to say, okay, physics leads it to this point. But if we say that it's always been, then you can't really go back and prove it from its origin. But
Correct
again,
me if I'm wrong, but
energy
it
is
seems like one theory trying to relieve another theory, right?
No, but that's not the reason that that is a theory. So I understand because of the way that we're looking at this topic, why you would say, well, this solves that problem. But none of that stuff was ever put forward to solve a problem. It's where the evidence leads. Now, whether they're correct about this, again, we've got a lot of moving parts here that you can't necessarily know the placement of at any one time because of what's called the three body problem. But you can't you also like the post hoc rationalization that you're suggesting here, which is that there's this, it could be God, but this theory fixes that problem. That's not why any of this was ever suggested.
what's the three body problem? I'm not familiar with that.
The three body problem is just that whenever you have three or more things interacting with each other at the same time, that it becomes almost impossible to predict what those atoms will be doing in the future. That's why, like with our solar system, we can say, well, you can shoot a rocket off the Earth and land on the moon if you shoot it at this angle at this time at this place and do all these
Right.
things. But whenever it
Right.
comes to predicting every asteroid, we can't do it because there's too many gravitational forces playing upon those.
I agree,
You're cutting out.
but when it comes to
So he did periodically drop out. I'm sure he'll be right back.
That was a very good point, the final one.
Man, I wish we could have heard it more legibly. Here he is.
I didn't hear any of it.
Nobody
Okay.
did.
Yeah,
No,
Rich, you're gonna have to reiterate that, buddy.
well, I need to hold on. Let me try switching my internet around. I'm on this RV site internet this time of day gets spotty. Let's switch over to my hotspot here and see if it's a little more personalized. Let's see, personal hotspot. By the way, I don't like doing shout outs to companies, but I love Visible Wireless Hotspot, $25 a month. So they don't pay me to say that. I'm just saying all of that stuff.
Trying to stream over Wi-Fi is always
it
going to cause
is.
you problems, no matter how you do it. It's how Wi-Fi works.
Okay.
What's up, Achilles? Good to see you.
Good to see you, brother. Hello, Yasam.
Hey,
Welcome.
Achilles.
Welcome back, Richard.
Thank you. Yeah, especially when it's a public Wi-Fi. It's
Yeah.
Oh, don't trust public Wi-Fi's.
Where were we? Three body problem. You're talking about going.
You had
Oh.
responded to something you took issue with whenever I explained the three body problem, and I didn't hear what you said.
Well, I was basically, saying, it's hard to predict, with the three body problem moving forward. But if you look at again the third law of motion, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Run it backwards. For every reaction there was an initial action to take place, and you keep following that all the way backwards. You get to a point where you're like, okay, what made it happen?
So the contingency part of it. So
Uh,
contingency is just a fancy word for an argument made by apologists that say that everything has a cause, and when you start regressing those causes, you either end up with infinite regression or you end up with a prime mover, right? Is everybody okay with my explanation of
Well,
contingency?
no, I get what you're saying. Thanks for simplifying. I really appreciate that. But I don't think you get to a point where it gets the infinity because something in motion, like you roll a ball down the hill. Well, gravity has picked up momentum, and as you follow it up the hill, it was there on top of the hill, and something had to either the wind probably pushed it over, somebody nudged it, or something happened to cause it to go down the hill. You
So
know,
let me just go ahead and introduce what the major problem with this is going to be. So when we talk about Newtonian physics,
mhm.
um, Newtonian physics applies to the macro, right? Whenever we start trying to apply Newtonian physics to the to the quantum world and things like that, it doesn't work. Um, so I would suggest that you're only looking at part of the problem there. And as for the original cause, a number of atheists and even physicists have suggested um, the quantum field as being uh, that prime cause. And the quantum field does explain how those things work, and it's actually the quantum field that's used in most cases, not all, to explain the what triggered the Big Bang,
If you're
the
talking about
rapid
quantum
expansion.
fluctuations creating the initial Big Bang or whatever, I highly disagree because quantum fluctuations are phenomena that are being observed in an already existing universe. So how can you say that initiated, the existence of everything if everything didn't exist already?
Can you suggest a reason that quantum physics wouldn't apply in the past?
No, I mean quantum physics, Newtonian physics, Kepler physics. I mean they all existed. Physics don't change just because the theory becomes inconvenient.
Well, it's so I know that from your position, it seems like, oh, well, there's an explanation for this. That's convenient. But the thing that I'm trying to push at here is that there are natural explanations for these things that didn't arise from the need for an explanation, but instead was where the science led. And you can see that process throughout physics and theoretical physics and all that. You can see the movement of science as we go forward to the present. But
Yeah.
whenever we start suggesting that it was something other than natural causes, that's where I'm taking issue with you at here. Is like you say, well, you don't accept these natural causes, but then you accept the supernatural causes that we have no reason to suggest are the cause of anything.
Well, that is my point that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring proof to the supernatural. I'm trying to say that the natural cannot initiate itself into space, time, and matter. It had to it couldn't just, oh, it just happened. And when it comes to the Big Bang, I would love to get into that later on how it's not physically possible for the universe to expand from the singularity. But the it just shows that we've tried really really hard. Many physicists have, and I'm not discrediting them. There's been tons of very very deep thought and some very very intelligent people thinking out that theory, but it comes down to a point where it's just, yeah, we see everything moving in this direction, we see this things happen, and we observe that these fluctuations and stuff like that, but it's all with the assumption that it happened itself. And then when that doesn't make sense, they come up with things like this string theory, which is a rift in space and time where it happened from another universe. Well, what put that universe into existence? I'm just trying to come up
Well,
with a concrete answer of how it
so
all.
so to so to be clear, string theory does not suggest that other universes caused this universe. And also string theory, they've kind of moved on past that because
Good.
it had some problems. And that's really where you started to see the more prevalent view that matter or energy is eternal rather than something that began. Now, again, this I don't know that this has made it to the point of the scientific consensus yet, but there are a number of leading physicists out there that take this position. I mean, I can give you names if you want, but I don't think for the sakes of this, it's really
Well,
necessary.
no, it's not really necessary. But what do you mean? Like, I must have missed something because my attention span is always out. You know, I kind of jumped out and then kind of popped back in. um, when you said where people start saying, you know, like matter and energy seem to be eternal and stuff like that, are you going to like the infinite existence theory? Is that what you were talking about there?
No, I'm talking about the first law of thermodynamics.
Matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed. Oh, by the way, the same is true for gravity, space, and time. By the way, none of that can be created or destroyed.
It wasn't created. I mean, I don't take the position it was created. So,
Well, it's here. I know you don't. I take the position that it's created. You know.
so just as you made a contingency argument for your view of the universe,
Yeah.
there's also this contingency of when we talk about the Big Bang, many times it's characterized as an explosion and things like that, which isn't exactly correct. Um, the Big Bang just describes the expansion of space and time,
Right.
uh,
Right. Rapid expansion.
rapid expansion. Yeah, and so
Put the same
whenever,
definition in explosion or whatever, but it doesn't matter.
well, whenever you talk about gravity and things, the the leading theory on that is anyway, and again, I'm just telling you what the natural explanations, one of several that are out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, the leading theory on gravity though is that after that first Planck unit where we can't really see back before that, the universe expands very very rapidly, and then as things start to cool, you see the fundamental forces start to take over. Uh, in those initial Planck units, that isn't possible because of the amount of heat and energy that is all moving at once. As things start to coalesce, you see the strong and weak force, the force of gravity, electromagnetic force. You see these things start to take over the physics of the universe. So,
Well,
uh,
instead of see it, I mean, I'm not trying to, you know,
I
talk
mean,
crap
in the
or
math.
say anything about your intellect or anything, but sounds to me like that's just an assumption of how they're going together. Again, I come from a point where it's not physically possible for the universe to expand from itself because the gravity would be way too strong for it to expand from itself from a singularity if you took all the matter and energy in the universe and put it into that singularity. It would.
Well, so
Go ahead.
so again, whenever we start, the reason that we started that first Planck unit is because, and science is very open about this, is
Mhm.
we don't know what happened before that. Now, the when I say we see these things, I'm saying that the math checks out, that this is a possible explanation, and that it doesn't violate any laws, and that it
Let me
works.
throw this
Now,
variable at you.
whether it means that's actually the case, that's not the purview of science. So I think though that, like, again, my issue keeps coming back up here is it's like, okay, natural explanation after natural explanation, and you're like, well, I don't know that that works for me, but yet the explanation that you prefer is way more outlandish than any of those, and can't be explained through math or anything else.
Possibly, because consciousness is a pretty dang incredible thing for it to just happen over millions of years. Is kind of the same thing, right? It's happening all by itself
Well,
collectively.
to our knowledge, and there may be other consciousness out there, but to our knowledge, consciousness is a recently a recent thing. I mean, well, I guess with you having I imagine you accept the creationist view that consciousness has existed since the beginning. Um, which
Not
I
not
disagree.
exactly the very beginning, but close to it.
Right.
Well, unless you throw God in the equation, and his consciousness would be that beginning. But
That gets into another subject where we have to talk about evolution and stuff, and I don't think that's really where we're
yeah,
trying
hold
to
on.
go.
Let's go back to the Big Bang really quick. I want to throw this part into that into that equation, the variable that may have been overlooked. So I need to let me step back here because I have some math written down on my PowerPoint. I'm not going to share it. I'm just going to um, basically describe it. Joe, are you familiar with that? Is your name, right, Joe? I don't want to get that wrong.
Yeah, my name's Joe.
Okay, nice to meet you, brother. Um, so you familiar with what escape velocity is?
Yes.
What, let me just, I guess, run by it for those listening who might not understand what it is. So, escape velocity is basically velocity needed for any object moving to escape a relative gravity well, right? So, if you took a tennis ball or a stone or anything, threw it up in the air, as soon as you were done applying energy to it, as soon as you let go of it, it would begin to slow down because gravity's pulling on it and eventually get to a point where it stop and it fall back down. Right. Well, if you get enough energy where you just sling the thing so hard, gravity to a point would not be able to slow it down and pull it back to the planetary body and it would keep drifting away. For the planet Earth, that's relatively 25,000 miles an hour from the Earth's surface. Okay. So we know that a gravity well is based on the overall mass of a planetary body, right? Um, Escape velocity is one of the ways we know this. There was also two satellites launched by NASA, I think back in 2011. It was the Grail mission. Two satellites, ebb and flow. Long story short, they discovered that gravity is based on the overall density that it is passing over. Another way to say that gravity is based on the overall mass of the planetary object. Right.
Right.
So, with that
Mass,
said,
not size.
what?
Mass, not size. Yeah.
Yes, mass, not size. Okay, that being said, we don't know for sure because we don't know exactly how much mass is in the universe. For in the estimated overall universe, let's do this. Okay, so the escape velocity of our sun is it 1.4 or 1.6? Yeah, roughly 1.4 million miles an hour to escape the gravity well of our sun, right? And the current estimate for the number of stars in the observable universe is around 200 trillion galaxies, each containing 100 billion to 400 billion stars, leading to a total estimate of around 200 billion trillion stars, right? It's according to Little Passports in the World Atlas. Okay. 200 billion stars is a good middle point. Now, using our star as a reference, because there are some smaller and there are some bigger, probably not exactly the same, but it's a good starting point, right? Um, Now, the escape velocity of our sun is slightly less than 1.4 million miles an hour. And if you took that and multiplied it by 2 and then add 23 zeros to that, you would get a number. Okay, so this is just estimating the stars. This does not include planets, moons, asteroids, comets, and other celestial objects with mass, right? If you include those, you get a much larger number than this estimation. You would get, what is it, 276 quadrillion miles per hour needed to escape singularity with that mass. And by the way, the universe has a maximum velocity, which is the speed of light. So you're talking you would need something 412 quadrillion times faster than the universe would allow for it to expand out of a gravity well that large.
So can I?
Please, please.
All right. So first of all, um, you're right about almost everything you said. The factual parts of it you got right. The conclusion I disagree with.
Okay.
Because first of all, when we talk about a singularity, a black hole, essentially, the there is no escape velocity good enough to get you out of a black hole. The
That's why we
black
call it
holes
a black
do,
hole, because
yeah,
light can't escape it for us to see what's inside it.
right. They do radiate energy though. And
I
but
forget why,
whenever
but it's for a different phenomenon, not the velocity.
well,
I got to look it back
it's
up.
because of the laws of motion you talked about earlier. So, and it's because of the laws of thermodynamics. So, whenever things are taken into a black hole, they're eventually radiated in the form of Hawking radiation, which is that energy escaping the black hole. And eventually, black holes can even evaporate and disappear. But aside from all that, that's something different. Whenever you're talking about the escape velocity of Earth, for example, the
Mhm.
escape velocity on Earth functions a bit differently than the escape velocity from our solar system, because we have not just
Relatively the same.
gravity, but you have drag and friction and a lot of other things. Now, in
Yes,
space, when you get away from the Earth,
yes. I know
you're
what you're
still within the gravitational forces of the sun, but those forces are so weak that the escape velocity changes to the point to where if you
Yes,
just point something in a direction, it'll keep going.
yes.
Um,
That's why I said from the surface of the Earth, we calculated about 25,000 miles an hour.
sure.
For example, of course, getting rid of the atmosphere, assuming there's no drag from atmospheric interference at all, um, 25,000 miles an hour from the surface of the Earth. If
Well,
according
the
to the inverse square
25,000
law,
miles will do it even with those variables.
yeah, but well, I mean, by the time you accelerate through it, it would slow down and would lessen. You might not make it all the way out. But anyway, the further away you get, the less the pull of gravity is. You're right. I believe it's the inverse square law. Like if you're half the distance, then it becomes like one fourth, or I don't remember exactly the math real quick. But anyway, the further away you get, the less the pull of
Right.
gravity is on you. So from that point, your continuing velocity would be less than that
It,
on the surface of the Earth. I know what you're
it
saying.
it's going to be an equivalent ratio still, because the closer you get to the center of mass, the stronger gravitational force you'll have to overcome. That's the theory of gravity. The the issue is though is whenever you talk about like moving away from the sun, it's not just or any of these other stars. You can't just calculate the total force of those stars because there's other variables. Um, Dark energy and dark matter seem to have a huge effect on gravity, and there's also like when you're moving away from the sun, by the time you're at Earth, Jupiter's gravity is damn near doing as much as the sun.
Depending on
There's
what side of the sun the planet's on.
Oh
Yeah.
sure, yeah. I mean, it depends on how close you, because again, the closer you are to the center of mass, the more powerful the gravity.
Well,
But
yeah, but okay. The singularity thing is assuming all that gravity, Jupiter, Earth, the Sun, Mars, all that stuff is in one solid planetary singularity. So when you get out there, you're not really going to be pulled against anything else. So it is going to be originating from that point. Dark
yeah.
energy, by the way, I believe was first theorized because they see that the universe is expanding, but the force of gravity of everything out there should be attracting it all together, and they couldn't quite figure out why it's still moving away. So I believe that is
Well,
they came up
we
with dark energy because they see something pulling it,
no,
but they're not quite sure what it is. Am I wrong on that? Or
yeah, you're wrong. So that was the initial problem, right? Is they calculated all these things up, and the numbers should have worked out evenly, and they didn't. Um, there should be the amount of matter in the universe wasn't accounted for was the problem. And
we still
so
don't know the total amount.
no, you're right, but we do know that dark matter makes up about 98% of it now.
But we
um
still don't know what it is.
the now y- that's not the reason that dark matter or dark energy was proposed, though. It was because of the effect that those things have on nearby objects. We can't directly observe dark energy or dark matter for that. And dark matter is kind of like a catch-all. Dark energy is really the important one here. But we can't really directly observe those things, but we can observe the effect that they have on other things. And so we know that there's something there that's causing that effect because of what we talked about earlier. These things are not having gravitational pull on them without some cause, without some reason for it being there. And dark energy is the math that explains why that's happening. And we see it in universes whenever we take a small universe and we add up all the matter and what should be the gravitational effect of that matter, the universe should fly apart at the seams, but it doesn't. And that's, again, we see the effects of dark energy on these different, and I said universe, I meant galaxy.
Okay, I
We've
was going
seen
to say,
the
like, where does
effects.
this whole universe come from?
Yeah, we see the effects of dark energy on galaxies. So dark energy doesn't come from the, oh, we're missing something, we need to explain it, and here we'll just use this to do it. It comes from, we see this thing having an effect, so what are we going to call this thing? And that's why we don't really know a lot about what dark energy is, but we know the effect it has on the universe.
Well, I do want to throw this one thing in. I know it's unscientific and far out there, but even before cosmology could mathematically measure it, and before telescopes and before we could actually observe it, it is written down several times in the Bible that says God does stretch out the heavens. And I know dark energy in one point or another is basically the explanation that we have for everything moving away. Like from Big Bang Theory point of view, there still isn't an explanation for what initiated that vast expansion of the universe.
Well, again, there are mathematical formulas that describe how the quantum field could do that, but we don't know any of that, again, because here's the thing. When I talk about what science can at least provide some sort of explanation for, and we go back to that first Planck unit, um, they that's when explanations start to come about. Before that, I don't know. And if someone wants to tell me that they do know, then they need to provide how they know that.
Well,
And
that's the
that's
beauty
where
of
we run
science.
into the problem.
We got a lot of stuff discovering it. One issue that I have for like the first Planck unit is a lot of physicists get to the point. It's like, okay, we need to have this, but the only way to explain it is to change the law of physics because the physics won't allow it to happen. I've seen that quite a bit.
You've seen them change the laws of physics to fit their narrative.
Yeah.
I would love for you to provide me any example of that. And you can do that aside from this some other time if you want, or now, whatever.
Well,
But
no, it would take me some research to find it again, but yeah, I've come
yeah,
across a few.
I don't know that. I mean, because we've talked about the laws of motion, and as far as the macro world goes, since Newton came across those, they haven't changed. Now there has been refinements and things added to that as we better understand the world around us, but those things haven't changed. The laws of thermodynamics, since discovered, have not changed. Uh, so whenever you talk about these things, the laws that govern our universe changing, they wouldn't be laws, first of all, if that was the case. But I don't know.
That's
And again, I don't know all of science, but I don't know of that ever happening.
that's another, I guess, some evidence for organization and for intelligent design is that the universe is kind of structured and put together by these laws of physics and laws of energy and stuff like that. It's not just all random because everywhere we observe the exact same laws that hold the thing together, the exact same laws of thermodynamics, the exact same laws of motion, the exact same laws that are put together. They're not, perfectly established in this part of the universe and in this galaxy. They're completely different. Over here, it's a completely third different thing. Everything's ordered the same. What put him that way? I know that's, kind of a big
Well,
question. I don't have, of course, I'd like to say, oh, it was designed and God put it that way, but you're actually trying to physically prove the existence of God.
yeah.
It's difficult
Well,
to do, man.
And
you're
I'm so
implying.
glad that you guys circled right back around to this so I can make the comment I would like to make earlier.
Go
So,
ahead.
Joe, it's Joe, right? Did I say it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So earlier you had made a comment we just circled back around to. You were told theory that you keep presenting a whole bunch
You
of
can
other
call me
theories.
rich.
Okay, I'm sorry,
I'm
Rich.
living proof you don't need a lot of money to be rich. I should put it that way.
Okay, so you told Rich that you've given him a lot of other theories. Why can't he get off that one? But that's the thing, it's theories. Okay, the definition of a scientific experiment is to be able to be repeated and make the same exact conclusion indefinitely. But here on both sides, neither one of you are able to do that. So, I mean, honestly, you can't sit here and be like, oh, you're not hearing my side of it. Why can't you pick one of these theories when it's still a theory? What's so wrong with us having our own theory then, if that's the way you look at it? And if so, I want to go a step further and say, what's so wrong with my theory if we have no proof in either direction? Because when I die, the worst case scenario is if I'm wrong, I died being a really awesome person, helping and guiding in as many people as I could to have a better life, to find faith in something, to maybe eat better that day. My charity goes a long way in the works of the Lord that I do. Whereas if I'm right and you're wrong, you're going to spend an eternity in hell. But either way, they're both theories until the end when we have the proof in our face, right? So like to sit here and be like, my side's right. Why can't you see any of my theories? When if you're wrong, eternity in hell. Whereas if I'm wrong, I was just a great person. I'd rather be on my side of the fence.
So a few things. You hit me with a few different things there. Um, First of all, and I don't think that you did this intentionally, but you kind of did a bait and switch on the on what a scientific theory is. You talked about scientific experimentation when a theory is that scientific experimentation has been repeated and corroborated to the extent that they're not getting any other outcomes. So there's that. But why should you, as to the question of why you should accept these things, I'm not stating that you should. All I'm saying is that there are natural explanations. So why then do we look for supernatural explanations? Now, and to your last point as to the like Pascal's wager thing you put forward there, that's there's a lot of problems with the Pascal's wager thing, and we can get into that if you want. But I don't think that you should stop doing those things. I was a believer for over 25 years of my life, and I understand that Christians do good things every day. People do good things every day. But what about being a Christian precludes me from being able to do those same things?
The end results, like honestly, that's it. Like an eternity in hell if you're wrong. That's what's the difference. I'd rather not burn in hell and be tortured for the rest of eternity if there is that said eternity. I'd rather have faith that there's better out there and that the next earth that's going to be recreated is going to be one that I could actually be proud of being part of. Because let me tell you, I'm not proud to be part of this evil world that we live in where children can be raped, murdered, tortured, and sold off into slavery. I'd rather have the hope that something better is coming because there's too many good people around that show there is good in this world. So by living by my faith, I might be able to experience that perfect world in the future. Whereas if, like I said, if you're wrong, it's eternity in hell.
So that's back to Pascal's wager, and we can do that in just a second. Let me get through this first
No,
part.
What is
I want
Pascal's
to
rate?
call it that's back to the word of God. Can we quit
You
calling
did,
it Pastel's wager and just call it the
well,
word of
Well,
the
God?
argument you're making is Pascal's wager.
yeah,
But
he's
That's
it's
why
right.
I'm
really
saying it.
not
No,
because the
but
scripture was
Tabitha,
around way before
Easy,
that,
easy,
though.
easy.
Tabitha, it really is. It's a term used to describe exactly what you're describing, and it's called Pascal's wager.
And I
But
get that, but I want to make the fact that what I'm saying is actually biblical, not just yet another theory.
Well, and that's fine. But again, you didn't answer my question. I said, what about you doing good and caring about all these things? What about being a Christian precludes me from doing those things? Because it doesn't.
But
There's
that
nothing
wasn't
that you
the
can
main
do as a
point,
Christian that I can't do as an atheist.
except for salvation, which is my point. Salvation's what changes it. The
Well,
salvation.
Well, if I can just briefly, we're actually trying to keep the topic on a specific arena tonight, and it's cosmology. So if we could try to keep all of our stuff on cosmology, that would be, I think, probably more productive.
Well, can I throw one thing that has completely nothing to do with cosmology out there real quick? And by the way, Thanksgiving and Potluck Sunday are basically the only two things where gluttony is actually encouraged in the church. Never mind, you guys are supposed to laugh at that. Anyway, getting back to the topic at hand.
so let me see if I can give an answer here that will include the your questions as well. It's not that I'm suggesting that being an atheist is in some way a better way for every individual to live or anything. I take the position that um, I don't decide whether I believe in a God or not. I'm not convinced a God exists. I cannot therefore say that I am. Um, and that's, as far as that goes, that's where that's at. If I sit here and say, oh well, I'm promised heaven if I just believe in God, so therefore I'm going to say I believe, I think that's considered blasphemy, um, and would be against your faith. So I don't know that I have a choice in that matter, which is a problem. And so whenever I say that we have natural explanations for these things, I'm not at all telling you or Rich or anyone else that they have to accept these or believe them or whatever word you want to use in place of that, because I know accept is kind of not good. But all I'm telling you is that we have these explanations. So why do you suggest that people should believe the other one? Now, if your answer to that is because the Bible says X, then we can discuss about whether the Bible's right about things and should be believed or not. And that's a whole different discussion. And I'm willing to have that with anybody that wants to have it at any time. But like Stephen said here, it's not really the topic. I'm more than happy to have that conversation, but I don't know that it fits in here.
Yeah, it's just we were trying to get some debate practice in for Rich, and his niche is the cosmology. So that's why we were trying to keep it to that. And Kentucky Atheist was nice enough to come on last minute to have an open talk with us. So anyone's welcome to chat in, but let's try to keep it cosmology.
I really appreciate it. I've basically, said all my arguments. There was one note that I took down beforehand when you were talking about, you don't see the evidence of anything really interacting with the universe. And I just wanted to bring up, again, it's the laws of how everything's structured together. But, the initiation of everything, I guess, was the the most, I guess, the biggest defense that I have to prove that there is a God. Everything is here, and I don't see how it could possibly just come into existence on its own, and how it can possibly just be here. And then, if it took 13.8 billion years for consciousness to evolve, why does it? Well, I guess that's kind of going away from cosmology, but why does it only last 120 years at the most? Um,
Well, I mean, so first of all, Rich, I appreciate the interaction and
yeah, that's good.
that you're trying to explain things. I get it. And don't take this the wrong way, but
No, no.
what and I'm not when I say these things, and I was pointing out the same thing to the other person here, that I'm not trying to be offensive to you, but what you're doing is called an argument from incredulity. So you're saying, I don't understand how all this could happen, given these things, without even actually looking towards the science that explains those things.
Well, no, I disagree because I have looked at the science and I don't agree with it. It doesn't explain how it gets here. Just saying, oh, some quantum fluctuations randomly happen, and all of a sudden, all the matter and energies in the universe, including space and time and gravity itself, and then over a vast, long period of time, it all just randomly organized together into the extreme, incredible consciousness, that little presence behind your eyeballs we are observing through. That just doesn't make sense on how it
But
can just happen
but
by
it
itself.
does provide answers to those questions.
Well, we
Now, whether they are the answers is something totally different. But to say that it doesn't provide the answers to the questions you're asking just isn't true.
Well, so okay, let's look at quantum fluctuations again. It's just like a spontaneous um, bit of energy popping in and out of existence, from what we can observe. How does that
It's not
little bit
like
of
that.
energy come into helium? And how does that little bit of energy turn into iron? How does that little bit of energy
Okay.
into existence become consciousness and then a star? That's
Fair enough.
really
Fair
organized.
enough. The so whenever we're talking about quantum fluctuations, we're not just talking about just things moving around or however it was you explained it. We observe superposition within quantum mechanics. That we observe that. Now, the act of these particles popping in and out of existence in different places allows them to interact with both the quantum field and other particles. The Lawrence Krauss's book, A Universe from Nothing, explains this in great detail. Um, not promoting Lawrence Krauss, just trying to explain that there are physicists who follow this exact explanation. Whenever you go into talking about how does that then become the macro world and the elements that we see, primarily the universe was hydrogen at first, and as the first stars coalesced, made of hydrogen and a little bit of helium, they they live their life, they explode, and in those explosions, heavier elements, elements heavier than lead are formed anyway.
So it's
The
theorized and it's never been observed, and nobody knows
Oh
how
no,
it's.
that's been observed. That's
Let,
the
okay, let me stop you right there. We should go into business. If that's been observed and it's been proven, let's go into business. I know a place right down the road from here where we can go get a little bit of helium and some hydrogen. Let's take that and let's just make a mountain of gold and become the richest people on the planet.
You could if you had enough energy to pump into those
Let's
elements.
do it.
And that's where the stars come in. So in the life cycle of stars, which has been observed, we see clouds of gas that collapse and form stars. Those stars begin to form heavier and heavier elements through nuclear fusion in their cores. And then whenever it reaches lead, that's kind of the death sentence for a star. And
Right.
the star then begins the process which leads to supernova, if it's a big enough star. Whenever stars go supernova, there is enough energy to bind together through fusion elements heavier than lead, which does occur, and we see them in the clouds resulting from supernovae.
Let me
So
ask you this question. Let's back up a little bit. Where did
yeah, go
the
ahead.
hydrogen and helium come from in the first place?
Well, whenever we talk about the quantum field and those fluctuations you're talking about, the particles that are popping in and out of existence in different places at different times, unpredictably, mind you, uh,
Pretty convenient.
are very simple particles, and we see by
Well, quantum
looking back in
fluctuations are
time.
energy. It's not particles. How are energy and matter interchangeable
Well,
aside from Star Trek?
particles and waves are kind of, I know, like, I know that this is complicated, but like particles and waves are kind of two sides of the same coin. So um depending
I would
on
love to see somebody take an empty matter or an empty jar and fill it with brand new helium and brand new hydrogen.
I
I don't
mean,
really know about
again,
science.
nobody is saying these things are created. There's no atheist or physicist that claims um, that
It
they were
came from
created
somewhere
at this
and it's
point.
here.
Right. And again, this goes back to it seems that matter is eternal.
Well, seems that God is eternal, but all the matter's in motion. How
Well,
can
here's the
it
thing: the
can't
matter
actually know
exists. You
itself?
can't show
Goes
that
back
God
in.
does. That's where your issue is.
No,
At
I
the end,
didn't catch that.
at the end of the day, this is completely based on your faith and nothing else, about the God claim
You know
anyway.
what? Right back to you. Your
Wouldn't what
faith
you
was
just
also assuming that it started all by itself.
but wouldn't that
I've never
prove
claimed that.
wrong the second law of thermodynamics?
What about the second law of thermodynamics?
That the law that
Entropy.
basically that how can it be eternal when it's a law proving that is what's the word I'm looking for? Hold on.
Everything's moving to a state of decay.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
How did it get
So,
into a state of order in the first place?
It
well, so this is a misunderstanding of
the
entropy.
amount of usable, that's the word I was looking for. The amount of usable energy in the universe is running out, like you said.
Well,
So if it is, then that would mean there would have to be a beginning if there's going to be an end. You can't just have an
no.
everlasting universe that keeps going if your laws are proving that it's decaying, right?
So again, a sorry about that. So again, the a cyclical universe theory does account for that. And also, when we talk about entropy, entropy doesn't um, make it impossible for pockets of organized things to come about. In fact, it's predicted within entropy. Um, the There's this idea of like things are moving to a state of chaos and that everything is always moving to a state of chaos, and that's not what the second law of thermodynamics says in any way at all. Entropy just refers to, as a whole, the system is moving from more energy to less energy, or to that energy being spread out. It just means the system as a whole. It doesn't mean every individual particle is moving away from every other individual particle.
Sorry, I'm trying to pull something up in my PowerPoint about that
And
exact.
that's always been the law of the second law of thermodynamics. By the way, it's never precluded life or consciousness or planets or stars or any of that stuff.
I'm sorry,
Um,
I'm refereeing. Give me a moment. Yeah, go
okay,
ahead.
uh, thermodynamics doesn't preclude those things.
Um, why can I not find it? I've got way too many things buried here in this PowerPoint. I've got the actual written definition of that law, but I cannot.
The second law of thermodynamics.
Yeah, it basically says that everything tends from a state of greater disorder into a, or straight, yeah, a state of greater order into a state of greater disorder.
You're missing
Even
the first
further.
couple words because it's not. There's a couple words
Well, yeah, I
before
mean
that.
that's why I'm looking for this thing here. I can't.
Okay,
Go ahead. Go ahead. I mean, if you.
so it says within any system that things move to a state of disorder, and that doesn't preclude there being pockets of order within that system to eventually lead to that disorder. Um, the uh, the the definition is that heat spontaneously flows from hotter to colder objects, and that the total entropy or disorder of an isolated system will always increase over time. uh, Life on Earth isn't a closed system. Stars are not in a closed system. Once that star is created within the closed system of that star itself, entropy takes over, and yes, that begins. But the point is that it doesn't preclude that from happening. In fact, it predicts it. Um,
We still got the same. Sorry, I'm still looking through this. I only
yeah,
caught
yeah,
part of what you were saying. I mean,
no,
you know,
no, no problem. I mean,
that's why.
I'm not a physicist, by the way. I'm not a professional in the field here. Um,
Well, you
Everything
still
I
hold your
say
own
should
very
be
good,
taken
man.
with
You're
a grain of
very,
salt.
very intelligent person, and you're definitely bringing um, a lot to the table that have really given me a lot to think about and challenge my brain.
Well, I
And
tell you what,
I really
Rich,
appreciate it.
I would love, and you know, we can do this as laid back or as just general discussion as you want. But I'll have this debate with you like an actual, we do an opening and a structured debate if that's what you want to do. I will tell you this also, Rich. I
Yes, sir.
will I will help you to better your argument yourself for other atheists, because I think that whenever we whenever we have these conversations, I want you to have the best argument you can possibly have. I'm not against Christians or religion even. I I think there's some problematic things, and that's a whole different thing. But like, I want you to bring the best argument you can so that we can have the most thorough, informed discussion that we can have on it. So, by all means, and whenever I point out things like I'm saying, well, it's an argument from incredulity. Understand this: it doesn't mean that you're wrong. Whenever I point out some fallacious way of thinking, it
Yeah.
just means that you arrived there in a fallacious way. It doesn't mean it's wrong. That would be
Or
called
it
a
means,
fallacy fallacy.
there's evidence that I haven't thought about and that I wasn't that
Sure.
I wasn't aware of that, contradicts the statement I was saying. I see what you're saying.
And
Uh,
as we go here, you make points that I have to internalize and think about as well, and that's why we do this.
yeah,
Um,
that's the whole point of a debate. It's not really trying to convince you that I'm right, know that you're wrong, or that my intellect is superior, or that
no,
I've got a much more charismatic person, and all this stuff. It's just an exchange of in, information. That is what the scientific principle is basically built off of. You think about something, you come up with these ideas, and then you present it to the table, and then you have an open discussion about it.
I
That's
will
what science is.
I will recommend this as far as a debate on cosmology, because cosmology is a very large topic.
Yes.
Um, Refine it to the two, maybe three arguments you want to make, and try to make a category out of that. So, if you want to talk about contingency, you know, call it a debate on cosmology, but then in your opening, where you're supposed to lay out your premises for what you're going to debate, um, say, well, my premises are contingency and this, and then flesh out each of those things, just for the sake of having a debate that the audience follows well. I'm not saying you're wrong, or telling
Yeah.
you that I'm a pro at this in any way. I suck at
Good advice.
debates.
Good
Um,
advice.
but uh, and like, don't uh just because there's an and I was particular to point this out, just because there is an answer that science provides to whatever the topic is that we may be covering at the time. Science doesn't deal in absolutes, but
You
challenging
absolutely
words
should.
like saying it's just a theory, you're going to get beat to death if you do that with anybody else, because it's that's just not how words work. um, the
That's one
be
thing about science. It is, there to kind of prove that things are absolutely the way they are. That is
No,
part
no,
of,
no, 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 no.
science in general.
No, science's goal is to provide the best explanation for the natural world, given the laws that it operates within. Um, the science does never ever deal in any
Potato and sweet
absolutes.
potato.
I can tell you, like, something that we would disagree on. I'm sure everyone here would disagree on, is
Oh, yeah, we've been doing
evolution.
it for the last
But
hour.
evolution isn't just like, and this goes with gravity or any other theory too. There is the fact that evolution does occur within certain observed species that we have watched, and the theory of evolution,
But
which then applies that to life.
adaptation, more or less, I wouldn't, depends on how you look at it. But getting back to cosmology, I've been dying to ask you this question. I
Yeah, go
completely
for it.
forgot about it. So I haven't read the guy's book. I'll admit that. Um,
Hey, real quick, guys, I gotta go. Mother's job's never done. It was good being with you guys here today, and y'all
hey,
have a
chloroform teddy bear.
wonderful
No, I'm kidding.
nap time spray. All
Good to see
Well,
you, dear.
right, y'all have a great night.
thank
God
you for your
bless.
interaction.
So I've never read Stephen Hawking's book. I've got I'd like to say I have a crutch when it comes to reading. Like my mind wanders every time I try to read, and by the time it comes back, I'm a page and a half down the road when my eyes are still moving, and it gets frustrating and annoying. But so I'd like to hear your explanation. So Stephen Hawking said
Brief History of
in
Time.
that or the Grand Design.
Okay, I haven't
Uh,
read that one. I've read A Brief History of Time.
says because it might be in that one, I don't remember. Says because I've got his quote pulled up here. Says because there is a law such as gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. Spontaneous creation is the reason there is something rather than nothing, why the universe exists and why we exist. It is not necessary to evoke God to light the blue touch paper to send the universe going. Now, I disagree because you have a chicken and egg problem, right? Gravity's only exists in existence because matter exists. It's a one of those symbiotic relationships. You can't have matter without the gravity, and you can't have gravity without the matter. So to say that the law of gravity put the universe into motion and created the universe, I guess contradicts itself because you can't have one without the other.
Well, I actually disagree with Stephen Hawking's explanation there as well, but not because of the same reasons. Whenever this was written, the our understanding of those things was kind of he was at the leading edge of where it was, and since that time, we do have a better understanding of certain things, and there are other hypotheses that have been put forward. That being said, though, what he's referring to here is there's a famous quote within science that says that they were busy explaining the universe, and I forget the scientist's name. It's not a famous name in science, but they're talking about the origins of the universe, and he's asked, well, why did you never suggest God as the answer to that? And his answer to that question was, I never found any need for that hypothesis. There was never a need for that particular hypothesis, I
Sounds like
think is
he's
an
trying to
exact quote.
satisfy the ego instead of the scientific answer.
Well, no, I mean, whenever we talk about science and coming up with an hypothesis, the idea is that we come up with a hypothesis, and then through testing, experimentation, corroboration, and all those things, we can then test that hypothesis and see if it holds true or not. And given the things seen within science, there was never a need for that type of hypothesis to explain anything. And in fact, rather than explaining things, that hypothesis brings forward more questions than it answers. Um, without faith being involved, of course. And it doesn't mean that it's wrong. I can't sit here and tell you you're wrong that God did it all, and I wouldn't pretend to do such a thing. The only thing I can tell you is that I'm not convinced that God did it because there are other explanations that don't require belief in the supernatural and all this extra baggage that comes with that. And while for many people, the point with the person that just left was that, it's about salvation for her. So you can have your reasoning for those things, and it's not necessarily irrational. But I just don't. The reason that we come at this from two different places isn't because I don't accept your position or any of that. It's just because I'm incapable of sitting here and saying that I think something is true that I don't.
Well,
Um,
everybody's capable of blind faith. I mean, have you ever driven over a bridge before in your life? I'm assuming yes, right? Have you ever
yeah,
stopped
that's
before
not
you
blind
got to
faith,
the
though. By the
bridge?
way,
Have you ever stopped before you got to the bridge and gotten under, got your NASA tools out and inspected the bridge, make sure it was 100% safe before you drove over the thing?
yeah,
No.
but that's not blind faith.
In essentially it is. I mean, you're assuming that the
No,
engineer did their job. You're assuming that all the laws and everything were up to date and that every inspection was done. What was it back in 2010 on I-35 outside of Minneapolis? I think 13 people were killed as the bridge collapsed and everybody was just doing their
does
daily commute.
does that make it rational to believe that every bridge will fall when you drive across it?
Well, I mean, it makes it a possibility, you know.
Sure, sure, and that's perfect because
Well, I
these
guess the
things
point
are
I was trying to make
possibilities.
I guess a point I was trying to make a little while ago is like, you said that I have faith that there is a God in the universe. True, but from the conversation we've had, there isn't scientific concrete proof that matter all of a sudden spontaneously came into existence with no explanation of how or why.
Yeah, and I
That
never claimed it.
like a little faith point myself too.
I
Um,
didn't claim that either, just to be clear.
oh, and I'm just kind of throwing that point out there, but there is one thing that I completely forgot about. Looking for this other law of thermodynamics definition, I came across a slide in my PowerPoint that I'd like to bring up. So getting back to law of thermodynamics, or matter, energy, space, and gravity cannot be created or destroyed, right? The
Yeah,
truth is they all exist. It just says it cannot be created.
right.
But I think since they're in contradiction to one another because the matter, energy, space, and gravity and the law of physics are all in existence, because these are in contradiction to one another, the only way it is possible for them to exist together is that an external action had to have been necessary to put them into that organized way that we observe.
Well, so first of all, there's a problem with that position. Um, you're saying that these things, because they exist, they had to be created, and that's a non sequitur. Um, just because the existence of something doesn't mean that there's an agency involved in creating it.
Well,
Things
I mean,
do arise from natural processes. Uh,
well, yeah, but that organized where, okay, it's here, but it can no longer come into existence because the law says that
how
it can.
how organized do you think the universe is?
Well, it's constantly moving from a state of order to a state of greater disorder, but the law is pretty organized. That's why we have the laws of physics. That's why
Well,
we observe the
the
laws of
the
physics.
the
We wouldn't have been
laws,
able to observe that they're there if they didn't exist.
but laws are the laws of that govern the universe don't function that way. They are the laws that are a description of the physical universe that we live in. They are not prescriptive to the universe. They are descriptive of the universe.
Well, that's just, I guess, a way of explaining, what they are, but they're still
Well, that's what they are.
that way. I mean, it's still the way the universe is.
Well, when you invoke an agency, yeah, then you're prescribing them. But if you want to prescribe them, then we have to ask the question: did these laws exist prior to God's involvement, or did God create these laws and then they're contingent upon God?
I'd go
Did
with the
God
latter.
create the laws of the universe, or did He just create the universe and those are the descriptive laws of it?
Well, I'd say he did them both at the same time,
Well, you
because
can't
he
have
knew
both.
that you know
That's the
for the
law of
universe
non-contradiction.
to work the way it is and for motion to generally happen, it had to be constructed in a way where it'd follow. You know, what's that? Um, which law of motion is it? Object in motion will remain in motion. Obviously, it's like a no
That's
duh kind of thought, but of course it's going to act that way. But would you put the thing into a total thing of chaos where all of a sudden this moving planet just decides to turn around and head the other direction?
could that be described in physics of a way that could happen? I mean,
Not
hypothetically,
not without something allowing that thing to stop, or friction to allowing it to stop and
right,
turn around and send it the other
right.
direction.
So this is a direct analogy to what you're saying. In that same situation, then, without some sort of explanation of what that thing is and how it works, no, you couldn't get there. And that's the same problem I have with whenever you take it out of the realm of the natural and put it into the realm of the supernatural, because it's not well defined, first of all, and second, you have no way of showing that there's a there, that there's even a reason to think that the supernatural is a real thing or can exist, much less that it does and has this effect. So that's why I stopped short of that. And again, it's why I asked you what point you're trying to debate. Because if you're trying to debate it from a point of religion provides a better answer, then I'm going to say, of course, no, it
No,
doesn't provide an
no,
answer at all.
I'm trying to um, make the point that it is necessary for something outside of the realm of space time that we exist in to put it into existence. That's the position I come from.
Okay. Well, and I'm not trying to like straw man that position onto you. I'm just trying to understand
Well,
you better.
it's a theory, you know.
Yeah,
You
it's a
know,
colloquial theory, not a
faith,
scientific theory.
like faith in a way. Well, no, it's a very big scientific theory because just like you could say, oh, the Big Bang is a big cogwheel theory. If that's what you said, I didn't exactly hear it because
It's supported
you know,
by evidence.
so is the existence of God.
What's that evidence? I'd like to look at it.
I just said, everything is here. It can't
But that's
physics
explained by
won't
natural
allow it to
means.
naturally happen all by itself.
So here's whenever we talk about like scientific theories and stuff, if you put forward evidence, if I say this is a common one. Whenever we talk about and sorry, I'm not trying to change the subject. I'm just trying to use this as an example.
Oh, you're good.
But whenever we're talking with young Earth creationists specifically about like Noah's flood and stuff,
Oh,
they'll
no.
say, "Well, you see." You see these rocks over here, or Mount St. Helens is a common one.
Right,
The
right.
volcanic rock at Mount St. Helens not falling within carbon dating the way that we would expect if it was reasonable to date it that way. But the uh, the point is that whenever your explanation falls within the purview of the already accepted explanation, it doesn't move the needle any further in that direction. So it's not actually evidence
It
that should
starts
sway
moving the
any.
it starts moving the needle. It gives
No,
people something to actually start thinking about, and then
if
maybe they're
if
like,
if you provide evidence that is also explained by the competing theory, you're not doing anything. You've done nothing. But other than say, well, you can explain this another way. But
that's
because what
how
we build
science works.
what we build in science with these theories are models, right? So we build a model of what the universe looks like. Now, whenever you go and start saying, well, this thing actually, I can co-opt this and it explains my point of view. Well, that means that we have to take it out of that model. So you've just destroyed a whole entire model of how things work by doing that. But then you insert it into this other, only you don't have a model, you've just co-opted that bit of evidence.
Right. I mean, that's the exact same thing they do with how we've got matter and energy in the first place. From taking helium and a little bit of hydrogen, all of a sudden getting all these other elements. You assume that it gets molded into a star or fused together in a star, but it's never actually been observed.
I'm not
So
assuming that. I'm supporting the mathematics that support that is what I'm doing. I'm not assuming anything. I'm telling you that the
I would
mathematics and the
still love
physics
to
that
see somebody
the
put
the
with
math
enough energy make gold from helium. I would
that
love.
yes, you can do that, and they do those things. Like we see that within
Well,
the
we've got a
universe.
massive national debt, which would
Have you not
wipe
seen
out the bill.
the scientific stuff that describes these big fields of gold in space and these big chunks of gold that are formed from
I've,
supernova?
I've heard a couple actually.
It rains diamonds in some places. like
I, I've
um,
I've actually heard a couple theories where like what is it that asteroid Bennu, or was that the name of the spacecraft? I don't remember.
Bennu, yeah, asteroid
Yeah,
Bennu.
the one where we just found all the other Earth-like elements and actually found water ice.
Yeah,
I wish I knew somebody who was really good at calculating orbital mechanics because he could probably prove this theory. Walt Brown had a theory that a lot of, not all, but many of the asteroids out there actually came from Earth when the fountains of the deep broke open, and that's another explanation, not just that other one. And of course, in the scientific community, there is a very big bias against what scientific explanations come from the Bible, so they don't even try to relook at it and rethink about it. They just automatically dismiss it. But I'm wondering if you actually look at it and you actually
Yeah.
do follow. See, orbital mechanics, again, like your math, doesn't lie. You can follow that stuff backwards to a point to find its origin. And if we do track the trajectory of some of those asteroids, would, I bet we could find that the origin does originate from this planet.
Well, so first of all, no, that's not how anything works. But the whenever so
You should
we
read
do
Walpole.
look at so some of these asteroids, especially things that come from the Kuiper Belt and the Oort cloud and all that, like these things have such long um, orbital periods that
Yes,
that we're talking, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years.
maybe just thousands of years old.
Uh, so so in order to do that, you would have to like take for example Halley's Comet.
Mhm.
Halley's Comet, we have historical records of people seeing it in the sky at the times that they should have seen it in the sky, going back really, really far into history.
Yeah, a couple
Now,
thousand
the
years.
orbital period of that comet would tell you that if you're going to suggest that it came from Earth originally, how does it get into that orbital path so far out in the solar system? First of all,
Well, I wasn't
without
talking about Halley's Comet. I was just talking a
well,
couple of
I, I,
asteroids.
well, I mean, you said these asteroids, so I was just using an example of one. But
No,
we
the
can apply
orbital
it to any
period,
of them.
the velocity of Halley's Comet at its perihelion would be way too vast for the amount of energy to come out of the fountains of the deep broken up and up to shoot it out of
So,
the.
how much energy came out of the fountains of the deep breaking open? You don't have that, or any estimate of that that's reasonable, because there's no evidence that it happened, and a mountain of evidence that says that it didn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, just like your mathematical thing about, oh, we say the math, where gold all of a sudden spontaneously appeared out of nothing. Same type of thing.
But so you're saying the math allows for the fountains of the deep
Um,
to
well, no,
break open, and
the math of the asteroids coming from the planet. I'm trying to pull something up on Google here so I can
sure.
find you that exact
Sure, I,
number.
I I know that there's been arguments that say like, well, that's how like craters on the moon, on the backside of the moon, and stuff. I think Kent actually makes that argument. Um,
He does, and he got it from Walt Brown's book, I believe. Walt Brown.
so so the problem with that again is whenever you start to make models, like and you say, okay, well, the fountains of the deep broke open and caused this event to happen, and that could possibly explain this other thing, right? So you're starting to put together a model of where things in our solar system or our local solar system came from. And the problem again arises of when we have explanations for those things that account for them in and they fit the model of our solar system that is supported by the scientific consensus to this day, then why should we accept those other hypotheses as more probable than the ones that we already have?
Um, I don't know, maybe no bias towards the Bible, maybe. Um, where is trying to scan through this website and listen to you at the same time. Sorry.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, you're fine. You're fine, man. Like,
I can't find it, but I remember it was talking about millions of pounds per square inch pushing down subterranean chambers, and then all of a sudden, I think it
what
was been
subterranean chamber?
what?
Ones that we suggest existed but don't see,
Well, I mean, we
or
have
ones that are required for that model to work.
ones that I guess are required for that model
Yeah.
to work. I mean, the theory does fit. You
Well,
know,
that's the problem with trying to use that as science, though.
you just turned the exact same thing that I was using against you around back on me
No,
about
no,
wanting to.
because what you're doing is post hoc rationalization. What I'm talking about is science leading to rational conclusions.
Well,
not
science
the
leading
backwards
to
way.
something, of how everything comes out of absolutely nothing, I guess originally was a
See, I've
topic.
not claimed that, but you've tried to put those words in my mouth about 10 times now, and I've never said that. Neither has any other atheist or physicist.
Well, it's usually what they do, I mean, that
No,
is
no, it's
the
not.
Big Bang
It's your
Theory.
misunderstanding of the model that you think that's what they do. But nobody has ever no serious physicist or atheist for that matter that I'm aware of, as in the atheist part anyway, has
Okay.
ever suggested that everything came from nothing, or that it came out of nowhere, or that it was created in this in
Well,
some
that
single
is the
event.
Big Bang
That's
Theory, or do they,
no,
instead of
no,
saying
no,
nothing,
that is
they
not the
say
Big
a
Bang theory.
singularity smaller than the period on the page, or
That
something
is
like
incorrect, sir. That is incorrect. Read what the Big Bang Theory is while you're looking things up, because it does not say anything like that.
that.
The
Actually, I've
Big
got.
Bang Theory is just the explanation for the rapid expansion of space and time. It is not an explosion. It is not a creation event. It is not something from nothing. It's none of those things.
I think from space.com, the Big Bang Theory stands as the most widely accepted explanation of the origin of the universe. According to this theory, the universe began as an infinitely small, hot, and dense point, which rapidly expanded and continued to stretch over 13.7 years. So basically, saying that all the matter and energy in the universe was in one infinitely small dot. So, where did that small dot come from?
The first law of thermodynamics.
Which is matter and energy cannot be
Yeah.
created or destroyed.
So the matter, the energy within our universe had to have always been there under that. Now there's
Again, you're
a
assuming that the universe is infinite.
you're
But because
assuming that a
it's in
god did
motion,
it.
well,
I
because
mean,
it's in motion says that it can't be because something. Again, going back to what we said an hour ago, you know, an action cannot act upon itself.
I haven't
Something had
claimed
to put it
that.
in motion.
Nowhere within any of that science is claiming that. And what you just read about the Big Bang Theory was correct. Sorry, it is the explanation for the universe, but it doesn't speak of anything being created or the beginning of time or the start of anything. It's the rapid expansion, and that rapid expansion gives us the explanation of what the universe looks like today.
Right, but I also told you that it's not possible because the gravity well would be way too extreme and way too strong for it to expand away from itself.
How big was how much energy was pumped into that expansion? All the energy in the universe? You want to use that? Because
Well,
then
it,
it's
it
not.
doesn't matter how much energy because
It does.
well, no, hold on, because physics won't allow the universe to accelerate faster than the speed of light. And in order for anything to
Wrong.
expand out of a gravity well
Wrong.
that strong,
Wrong. So
really,
so so that
so
that
you figured
universal
out how to
speed limit,
travel faster than the speed of light.
that universal speed limit does not apply to space time.
Ah, that's what I'm talking about. Physics is no longer convenient for our self creating universe theory.
It's not a physical thing with mass.
Okay.
Space have mass? Does empty space have mass? In fact, one of the qualities of it is that there is
But,
no mass
but
contained there.
gravity still pulls on space and it wouldn't be able to
No,
expand.
no,
Okay, so maybe the
that's
space
wrong.
expanded, but still the matter would maintain the same in that, very dense gravity well.
No, I think you're misunderstanding. So it's not that the individual matter is expanding away from each other. Space itself begins to expand.
Mm-hmm.
And we can actually observe to this day that out in the distance we can only see so far, because out past that it seems anyway that space is expanding faster than the speed of light, which doesn't allow
Really?
objects within that
How
space to send
how
its
far is
photons
this?
back towards us.
How far is this?
I don't remember the number, but it's
I
several billion
didn't
light
know we
years away.
observed the edge of the universe.
No, they can't observe the edge of the universe. As far as the observable universe, they can observe, obviously.
Right.
And at a certain point, though, we can't see past that edge of the observable universe because it's moving away from us too fast, or we're moving away from each other too fast. I'll put it that way. But physics, both Einsteinian physics and modern physics allows for space and time, because they're the same thing, to be expanding faster than the speed of light. There is no contradiction there within the laws of physics whatsoever.
Okay, even though I don't agree with you, there's still the point. Like, okay, so all the matter, right, is in that singularity. How the hell did it expand faster than the speed of light?
Well, the thing that you're talking about matter. So you're talking about that matter, and whenever you say that matter, do you mean like
All of the
particles of
matter in the
hydrogen?
universe.
Well, hydrogen is about all there was at the time.
Okay, matters matter, doesn't matter. Still, hydrogen in a gravity well that strong wouldn't be able to expand from itself since the speed of light is the speed
When
limit to the
space
universe.
itself is expanding, gravity has nothing to do with that.
But yet, gravity also pulls on space the same.
Gravity does not pull on space.
It
That's
does work
not.
space time. Where did I think we're
Yes,
alone here
yes.
in this
So
universe? There we
so
go.
space time itself is, they claim that it's warped by gravity, but that's to give you a visual idea of how that works, because things move around it. The shortest distance between two things is no longer a straight line; it can be a curved line, because space itself is curved around those things. But that doesn't mean that space is a physical thing that gravity is pulling in. If anything, you would have to say that if you wanted to make a comparison between gravity and space, you would have to say that gravity actually repels space.
Well, still, I mean, I'd like to know how we actually observe space because what we see in the telescopes, is light reflecting off of matter. And
Yeah.
within space, there is no matter for us to actually observe it.
Well,
Unless you
sure
throw
there
more
is.
numbers on a page and say, look, we just increased the amount
No, no,
of
no.
equation, you know?
So this goes back to the Doppler effect. So whenever space is space time is one thing. Matter exists within space time. You can't have something that exists without having a place and a time that it exists. So
Exactly. It's a
so
symbiotic relationship.
so those things exist separate from each other. Um, Whenever we look at things moving through space, space has no drag, no friction,
Yeah,
none
it's
of
an
that we can
absolute
see
There's
anyway.
nothing there.
Um, so space itself is not acting on anything. Um, the things that exist within that space do not have a gravitational pull on space. Like as in it's bringing space closer to it, because the thing you're saying is, how does this universe expand? Because things are pulling space in closer, and that's just not the case. That's not how that works, and it's never been how that works. It's never been explained that way, I'll say.
Well, still, you've got the same issue. I mean, just to say that, oh, space is pulling and therefore pull the matter apart with it faster than the speed of light doesn't work. The
if
universe can't expand from a gravity well stronger than the
if
maximum
if
velocity the universe will allow.
if I draw two circles on a balloon and blow that balloon up, the space that those circles exist on is growing and pushing them further apart without them ever moving at all. The space itself is expanding.
Right. Okay.
So
Um, I still agree with my model, but let me bring up this
you
question.
haven't given a model, by the way.
Okay, well, that pretty much throws away the 2 hours of discussion. Hey, before we use the
No,
bathroom,
you
let's
listen.
just
I'm not
discuss
trying to be hard on you,
pretty
Rich.
much being insulted here at the moment, and my theories are being thrown out because they can't find an explanation for it.
Your
Steven,
theories are
go ahead, wrap it
contradicted
up.
by
Let's go.
science. I mean, you can get mad because of it. I'm not being mean to you, Rich. You use the word that I've given a model. You haven't given a model. You've argued against the model that's accepted by science, is what you've done. And that's fine. You can do that. But to then call it a model itself is just not true. And you can get upset with me and want to leave because I'm not letting you have your way with things that are wrong. But I'm just sorry. That's how this works.
Okay,
All
I
right.
stepped back to use the bathroom. What'd I miss?
I was about to go to intermission. I don't know where we're at.
Rich is done.
I wouldn't quite say done. I just need like a 5-minute break or something. But
Here's the thing,
going back
Rich.
to the model thing, I did present a model.
No.
Actually, yeah. I mean, just because you don't agree with what I
Okay.
present,
Well, maybe we could
you
do
want me to
this
pull up
then.
my PowerPoint and explain the math behind it again?
No. Let's talk about your model, Rich. Your model it accounts for space time as we understand it. No, it doesn't. Does it account for gravity as we understand it? No. Does it account for
Well,
thermodynamics?
it,
No.
it, it does. It
Does it
accounts
account
for
for
all three, and you're disagreeing with it by
no?
talking crap instead of explaining.
You've made arguments against the scientific method
But
and then
hey,
called it a model,
Stephen, if
which
he's
it is
not even going to
not.
let me talk, shut it down.
It's okay.
Well,
I'm gone, bro.
so are we ending the conversation here? I guess
Looks
that
like.
we are. Okay. So that went incredibly well up until I'd say the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's usually what it comes down to, you know. I appreciate the opportunity. It was a good way to get my feet wet. I'm surprised it went 2 hours, to be honest with you. Wow.
It goes by quick. Now Robin is in the comment section. She is my favorite atheist and the only one I wholeheartedly trust, and a good friend of
If
mine.
you're
And
bringing her online, let me take a 5-minute break. You know, I need something to eat.
no, not for debating. She actually is involved with a lot of atheists who debate, and she is able to get you a hold of other debates if you're still interested.
Well, we're still looking for that 2-on-2, me and Hovind versus two others.
Yeah. Yep. So that will be good. Well, what was your overall opinion of your first big rendezvous?
Um, Again, it went by very fast. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of a couple things I was expecting to try to dodge the big question of okay, where did it come from? How did it start? And supposed proof that helium and hydrogen can, combine to make stars, and then you get all of the matter and all of the other elements. Still, it's a good theory, but I don't think it's proven. Um,
He was claiming that you never presented a model. You obviously stuck to your guns that you did create a model. Do you want to kind of just briefly go over again for everyone who may have missed it what your model was and how you did in fact
yeah,
present
let
a
me
model?
pull open that part of my PowerPoint here again. Okay, I don't believe that the universe can expand from a singularity because physics won't allow it. Escape velocity, again, is the velocity of any object. Um, Escape velocity is the velocity needed of any object to escape a certain gravity well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and through various different purposes, we do understand that gravity is based on the overall mass of the planetary body. And if we take all of the matter in the observable universe and put it into a singularity, we would get a gravity well so strong that the singularity wouldn't be able to expand from itself because the universe has a maximum velocity that is the speed of light. The velocity needed to expand from that large of a gravity well would need to be, what was it, like 412 quadrillion times stronger just in the observable universe. We don't know the exact amount of matter, It would just make a much larger gravity well. And what he was coming back with was that space itself stretched out and that it pulled everything with it. Um, Definitely need to think about that one for a proper term or a proper rebuttal. I mean, my brain is about falling asleep right now, but
Well,
we
I've
do
got
know that
this. I
mass
think
does
I
bend
think
space itself and pull it back towards it. So,
I think this might be where some of the confusion is originating from. And here's the scientific definition of a scientific model: simplified representation of real world objects, systems, or phenomena used to enhance understanding, communicate ideas, and make predictions. So I think the Kentucky Atheist contention was that your model to him was less of a model of how God did it, but more of a deconstruction of his held to model. I think
right.
that was maybe the contention.
I wish we would have, ended on better terms, instead of him just bailing out like that. I wish we could have come to, a better conclusion. I didn't want either of us to walk out the way we did, but um, Joe, if you're still happen to listen, I do have one question for you. If the space was expanding like you said it was, to pull the universe or all the singularity apart, what caused it to expand? I know the Bible again does say God stretches out the heavens. Of course, that does sound like a cop out question, of saying, oh, God did it instead of having a definite scientific explanation. Um, but that is, I guess, a life goal of mine is to scientifically prove the existence of God, right? So the book of John says that God is spirit. How do you scientifically prove what spirit is? If anybody can come up with any ideas, I would love to know. But that is one of the goals of the ministry of theories of creation is, to scientifically support God and his existence.
Well, Joe is still in the audience, but he's refusing to come back. He says, no thanks. Rich may need to use the restroom. I think he feels disrespected because while you guys were in your confrontation, you excused yourself to use the restroom.
I'm not gonna piss all over myself. Forgive me. And I thought I did say I got to use the restroom. Okay. So I guess Joe. Let me say this. So I don't like confrontations, and that's why I've been hesitant about getting into debates, is because I'm not comfortable with them. During the last minute of it, my dog came over and, like she does when my blood pressure gets through the roof, and kind of sits on my lap and starts licking my face to calm me down. You know, I don't like those. I explained this was not a model. Rich suggested that went to the bathroom. Other, yeah, okay. Um, hey, sorry. I mean, maybe it would have been rude if I was, taking a leak and talking to you at the same time. I wouldn't really like to do that live on the air. uh, Good one, Steven. But it was fun, Thanks, Joe. I'd like to do it again sometime. Um, Thanks for challenging my mind. I definitely think at the 1 hour mark we should take a break. Um, maybe 10 minutes or something. Go for a walk, and
Well, that's one of the
yeah, I
good
did say
things
set it down.
about a structured debate is that you can have a set period of time that usually equates to about an hour and a half. And that seems to be when both parties are kind of over the contentious part and they're just wanting to go into conversation. And that's when you can open up the panel. I think you did really good tonight. The only advice I would give you is don't let atheists second guess yourself, right? If they say emphatically that you're wrong about something, challenge them on it. Because I tried my hardest to not get involved at all, but there were a couple times I would have pressed Joe and called him out on the calling of you out, but it was
Me
not my
too.
conversation or my debate.
Yeah. I appreciate it. I've no disrespect for Joe, and I wish things would have ended differently, and I think egos got involved and I was getting frustrated, and someone
If
straight.
you'd like, I'm sorry. Kentucky Atheist is in the comments. He's talking to us live. You're welcome to come back on for a moment, Joe. We're wrapping up anyways.
Well,
Um,
let's just, if you come back on, let's just drop this discussion of cosmology. Let's just talk about, Thanksgiving, or, do a friendly conversation, because my brain is starting to hurt from this 2 hour, thing. And, you know,
well,
um,
we're about to close down anyways because we're going over the 2 hour mark. I like to try to keep them around that range. But he did say that he's more than willing to do a actual structured debate with you if you want.
right, right.
And we can have myself and Robin moderate, and we can post it to both the Kentucky Atheist channel and Proverbs guys. I think it would be good.
It's a good possibility. Let me think about it. I mean, we basically just be having the same exact discussion. I guess I would be more prepared. Does Joe? Do you have anybody you'd like to step in? And as I'm looking for somebody to debate Dr. Hoven and myself, just
He
two on.
already turned down the 2-on-2 debate. I
Okay.
tried to get Robin to bark up that tree already, but
Okay.
he's not a fan of Kent Hovind, so it's going to be hard to get a 2-on-2 debate for that reason.
Unlike what Dr. Hoven does, I don't like to, call people stupid, dumb, and idiot. I try to stay away from that point of it and just be calm. And I guess, for reasons that this thing got shut down, when it gets to that point where the blood pressure gets up, you just start throwing things back and forth. And, it just, I guess it's a little too much for me to handle. So.
Well, that's why I like the structured debates. He gets 5 to 10 minutes for an opening presentation. You get to rebut it. Then you give a 5 to 10 minute presentation. He gets to rebut it. Then we do cross examination where he leads, and we reverse roles where you lead, and then we go into open discussion. And usually that keeps people from getting the nerves where we were getting
How does
tonight.
the open discussion work?
It's pretty much exactly what you did tonight, except it's at the end of the debate. So you guys have already pretty much got all of your emotions and thoughts out, and you're just kind of critiquing each other.
Right, right.
So there's a great benefit to it. You did good in a regular discussion. I think you could do good in a debate, and I would love to get one set up for you.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Baby steps. I just don't want to jump into the fire, for lack of a better term. So, um,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Well,
get.
we can have more of these discussions.
Do you mind if I advertise my ministry a little bit? I'm trying to build a website and get people to go into it.
Go right ahead.
Um, Again, thanks for listening. If you're interested, I'm still trying to build a thing, or if you at least have advice on how I can improve on the thing, go check out the theoriesofcreation.com. Open for classroom and church lectures and being a guest speaker at your church, or podcast interviews and stuff like that. I mean, I love talking about the creation of God and the creation of the universe and cosmology and stuff like that. Yeah, God bless you guys. Thanks, Stephen, for this. Yeah, thanks, Joe. I appreciate you. This is the way I would love things to go. Just everybody, be calm and just, talk like gentlemen. Forgive me for getting kind of frustrated at the end there. I guess it was just a long 2 hour, conversation, and I needed a break. But God bless you, brother. I'll pray for you anyway. And Stephen, thank you so much for hosting this. Give me the opportunity. I really appreciate it, man.
Not a problem. And we'll go ahead and close here. I hope all of you guys had a blessed Thanksgiving. I hope you took the time to kind of consider what you're thankful for. Even though I didn't get to spend most of Thanksgiving with my family, I was very thankful to have a family this Thanksgiving, and God is good. I just
Amen.
can't state enough how good God is.
Amen.
All right. Well, we love you guys, and we'll see you next time.